Sumerian tablets are probably one of the oldest form of written record that we have.
The Sumerian language has no known relatives.
Then what is its purpose? Why did they even make it?
History today is at exciting moments with our current range of technologies, allowing us to discover things we may not have ever found, leading to new ideas about our ancient past. One of these discoveries was a story, an ancient king named Gilgamesh. The story of Gilgamesh, it's truly a marvel of ancient literature. You see, this story, inscribed in cuneiform on clay tablets, is not just old, it's ancient, dating back to around 2100 BCE during the third dynasty of Ur. But what's fascinating is that the tale of Gilgamesh goes even further back with earlier Sumerian poems. Imagine this. These tablets, lost for millennia, were found in the ruins of Nineveh's library in the 19th century. Piecing them together was like solving a grand historical puzzle, but some pieces are still missing, lost to the sands of time. Gilgamesh himself, what a character. He's described as 2/3 god and 1/3 human, which explains his incredible strength and courage. This isn't your average hero. He's on a whole different level, surpassing ordinary men and even the heroes of other ancient myths. It's like he's in a league of his own, a blend of the divine and mortal, making him nearly invincible. Now let's talk about his adventures, because they're nothing short of epic. Gilgamesh wasn't content just sitting around. He was driven by a thirst for glory and fame. Take, for example, his journey to the cedar forest. He goes there to fight Humbaba, a fearsome guardian, proving his heroism and strength. But the real twist comes after his friend Enkidu's death. This loss hits Gilgamesh hard, and he becomes obsessed with finding immortality. It's a quest that teaches him a hard truth, that death is inevitable and even he can't escape it. Speaking of Enkidu, their friendship is a story for the ages. Enkidu starts as a wild man, created by the gods to challenge Gilgamesh, but instead of rivals, they become the best of friends. Their bond is deep, showing how even the mightiest hero can find solace and transformation in companionship. When Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh's grief is profound, setting him on a path of self-discovery and a quest for immortality. It's a poignant reminder of how friendships can change us and make us better. The themes in this story are universal and timeless. Getting into the intriguing world of King Gilgamesh's historical existence, which, let me tell you, is a fascinating blend of archaeology and ancient storytelling. You see, our main piece of evidence comes from something called the Sumerian King List. This isn't just any old list. It's an ancient manuscript where the Sumerians chronicled their kings and the lengths of their reigns. It's like their version of a royal hall of fame, mixing in both legendary and historical figures, which shows how they saw their own past. Now here's where it gets interesting. Gilgamesh pops up on this list. Yes, the same Gilgamesh from those epic tales. His name being there is a big deal because it suggests that he wasn't just a mythical figure, but also a real king who ruled over Sumer. The list has been found in several versions, scattered across different ancient sites. It's like finding multiple editions of a bestseller, showing that this list was pretty important back in the day. But wait, there's more. We've also got various inscriptions and artifacts that mention Gilgamesh. Think of these like ancient shoutouts carved on tablets, cylinder seals, and even walls. These bits and pieces have been dug up from all over Mesopotamia, especially around Uruk, where Gilgamesh was said to rule. The catch? These references are kind of like brief celebrity mentions, not giving us the juicy details of his reign or achievements. Now, the tricky part in all of this is trying to separate the man from the myth. It's like trying to figure out where the legend ends and the real king begins, which isn't easy because there aren't any tell-all autobiographies or detailed historical records about his rule. This scarcity of info means we're dealing with a puzzle that's missing quite a few pieces. But here's why all of this is super important. Even though the evidence is a bit sparse, it's vital in showing that Gilgamesh was more than just a character in ancient tales. He was a real figure in Mesopotamian history. Let's talk about the Anunnaki, these absolutely fascinating figures from ancient Mesopotamian mythology. You see, the Anunnaki are like the A-listers of the godly world in both Sumerian and Akkadian myths, which, by the way, are some of the oldest in the world. The Sumerians kind of set the stage with their ideas of these gods, and then the Akkadians came along and said, hey, we like these guys, and adopted them into their own pantheon. Now, in the Sumerian version, the Anunnaki are mostly hanging out in the underworld doing their godly things there. But as we move into Akkadian and later Babylonian myths, these gods get a major role upgrade. They're not just underworld big shots anymore. They're taking on some serious cosmic duties like controlling human destinies and playing a part in the creation of the world. It's like they went from being local celebrities to cosmic influencers. Speaking of their cosmic roles, let's talk about how they show up in myths and epics. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is like the ancient blockbuster of its time, the Anunnaki are part of this divine council, making big decisions that affect Gilgamesh's epic adventures. Then there's the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation story, where the Anunnaki are right there in the mix, helping to set up the universe and lay down the laws of the land. But it's not just about creating worlds and starring in epics. The Anunnaki were believed to be actively involved in human affairs. We're talking about deciding the fates of kingdoms and people, bestowing kingship, fertility, and sometimes even throwing curses around. They were like the puppet masters of human history, pulling the strings in battles and empires. And with this power, they brought a sense of divine justice and morality to the table, reflecting the ancient Mesopotamians' ideas about the gods and their relationship with humans. Now here's where things get really cosmic. Over time, some of these Anunnaki start getting associated with celestial bodies like the Sun, Moon, and Venus. This wasn't just a simple rebranding. It was a big shift from being underworld figures to becoming celestial heavyweights. This move up to the cosmos meant they were now involved in the movement of the stars and planets, which was a big deal in Mesopotamian astrology and cosmology. It's like they went from being local deities to universal forces. Alright, let me take you on a journey through Gilgamesh's epic adventures and his encounters with the Anunnaki gods, because, let me tell you, it's like a blockbuster movie from the ancient world. First off, we've got this incredible meeting with Utnapishtim, who's pretty much the Mesopotamian version of Noah. He tells Gilgamesh about this massive flood that the gods sent to wipe out humanity. But here's the kicker. He survived because one of the gods, Ea, tipped him off to build a boat. And for saving all these lives, the gods gave him immortality. This story blows Gilgamesh's mind, and he starts thinking, hey, maybe I can live forever too. But Gilgamesh's journey isn't just about one guy. He's got a buddy, Enkidu, who was literally made by a goddess because the gods were worried about Gilgamesh getting too powerful. Talk about divine intervention. Then there's this run-in with Ishtar, the goddess of love and war. She's got a thing for Gilgamesh, but he's like, no thanks. And she gets so mad that she sends this massive bull of heaven after him. And we can't forget about Humbaba, this monstrous guardian of the cedar forest. Gilgamesh and Enkidu decide they're going to take this creature down, which is a huge deal because it's like challenging the will of the gods themselves. It's a real test of their strength and bravery. Throughout all this, Gilgamesh is chatting with the gods, especially Shamash, the sun god. Shamash is like his divine advisor, giving him tips and helping him out. And then there's Ninsun, Gilgamesh's mom, who's a goddess herself. She's giving him all this motherly advice and support, showing that even in the world of gods and epic heroes, a little parental guidance goes a long way. So what we've got here is a story that's not just about a hero's quest for glory and immortality. It's a deep dive into the relationships between gods and humans in ancient Mesopotamia. These deities are involved in everything, from creating companions to guiding heroes and even getting a little revenge when things don't go their way. Getting back to ancient kings, let's talk about Gilgamesh and his reign in Uruk, which is absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. Picture this. We're going back to around 2700 BCE, smack in the heart of what's known as the early dynastic period in Sumerian history. This was a time when city-states in Mesopotamia were popping up like mushrooms, and these were not just any cities. They were the first complex societies in human history, a real game-changer in how people organized themselves. Now Gilgamesh, this legendary king, was ruling over Uruk, one of these city-states. Uruk was not just any city, it was a major player. Located in what's now modern-day Iraq, right along the Euphrates River, it had everything going for it: fertile land, a prime spot for trade, you name it. It was like the New York City of its time. The city was a cultural and economic powerhouse, known for its architectural wonders. We're talking massive temple complexes and the famous Uruk Wall, which people say Gilgamesh himself built. Imagine the sheer scale of that. But Uruk wasn't just about impressive buildings, it was also a religious hub. The main temple of Inanna, or Ishtar as she was later known, was there. She was a top-tier deity in the Sumerian pantheon, and having her main temple in Uruk was a big deal. It shows how intertwined religion and politics were back then. And get this, Uruk was likely one of the biggest cities in the world at the time. The population was booming, which just goes to show how important this place was. Now let's talk about Gilgamesh's role in all of this. As the king, he was the man in charge, the big cheese. He'd be making all the major decisions about running the city, managing its religious life, and dealing with other city-states. And let's not forget military campaigns and construction projects. Gilgamesh was likely leading his troops in battles and spearheading building projects that made Uruk the wonder that it was. We hope you enjoyed our video today. Thanks for watching, and let us know any future ideas down in the comments below.